Do it or not?
She is coming.
Oh, let's see.
Yes.
I gotta do it. I gotta represent that area. All four of them.
Oh, where are you at?
Really, I'm usually seeing.
Waste my time.
So you never waste your time.
Our
No, I
don't.
That's right.
Told you that it was.
You're not gonna break my heart.
And it
All my
was.
stuff still, they haven't taken anything, still hanging.
Go in there.
Yeah, ready for a few. I turned in my pants.
Yeah.
We can find those, I'm sure.
Not hard.
So
Oh,
he left and he did get sick in
I've been waiting for you guys to go to the public
Yes.
health school nurse.
Yeah, here we are.
You said you were gonna do it.
We happen every 3 months.
Pressure's on.
Oh. Kate's gonna knock it out.
And you know, I come from Crookston, but I just went.
Order, April 18th, 2023. All commissioners are present. And we will start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, everybody get a chance to read the minutes from our previous meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes? So moved by Commissioner Hagan, seconded by Commissioner Hagan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. Motion must be carried. Okay, approval of the order of agenda. Do we need to add anything? Commissioner Rusted.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to add John Phelan regarding the parking route.
Okay.
West to the agenda.
Okay. We will place them right after public health and before the emergency manager. Kari does. Right, anybody else? Pay our power bill.
Missed that one.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the order of agenda? So moved by Commissioner Hagan, seconded by Commissioner Peach. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion is carried. Approval of the consent agenda, the bills, employee status changes, overtime, game of chance. Does anybody want anything pulled? All right,
Mr. Chair, I would move approval.
okay, Commissioner Peach moves for approval, second by Commissioner Hagan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion is carried. All right, public health.
Good afternoon, Chairman Russell, fellow members of the commission. My name is Kate Goldaddy. I'm a nurse in Grand Forks Public Health Department. And I appreciate the opportunity today to meet with you and to give you an update on how our school nurses out in the rural health schools are doing. So I always like to start with kind of a review of just general services that they're able to offer. So as an update, they continue with on-site coverage at the schools, an average of 2 days per week per school out in the county, with our 2 nurses that each serve the 2 individual schools as Larimore and Amarillo, Manville, and Midway. And so within that time frame, they're able to offer rapid assessments for the students as needed. They're providing curriculum on health and wellness that focus, serving as a resource for immunization information as needed, and also, of course, providing information and recommendations for circulating infectious diseases as it would come up. And on top of those key duties, really looking and focusing on the last quarter. So within that time frame being January to March, some of the specific highlights that we've been able to accomplish, and you may see on the board here, this is Becky, one of our nurses, who's actually presenting one of her curriculums at Amarillo on this particular day. But we really had a large focus on education. So they've been able to provide about 61 presentations. So that's some ongoing curriculum on activity and wellness with an on the move junior curriculum that was a collaboration with NDSU Extension Services. It turned out to be a really great opportunity both for the students and the nurses to learn together. Other topics have included, of course, puberty, fentanyl and substance abuse topics, winter safety, head lice, vaping, e-cigarettes, and dental hygiene. They're, of course, during that time, they're able to provide initial assessments, medical assessments and guidance for medical concerns on students, for the students. And we really found some wonderful opportunities to capitalize on some of the, kind of leveraging some of the public health colleagues and the programs that they work through. As an example, and we tapped our public health dietitian with some questions, the dietary concerns that they had over one of the schools. And another example was when our Women's Way staff members were out with the mobile food pantry. And we had an excessive amount, and they were able to reach one of our nurses who then tapped the school and were able to redistribute about 25 bags of essentially bags of food to families that were appropriately in need at the school. So it's a really great opportunity to have them on site and to work collaboratively between our staff. So looking ahead, of course, continuing into the 4th quarter of schools, we'll continue with that support, the 2 days on average. With those consistent services, and likely as of right now focusing still on the curriculum as needed. If the teachers are requesting a certain topic, they're able to turn that around fairly quickly and provide that. The contract is currently in place through June 30th of this summer, so we're looking forward to how that could be sustainable moving forward to keep them with 2 nurses. We have a few options, and again, just really looking at the curriculum to continue to create and facilitate and support the physical and the mental health of the safety of the students within the scope of practice for a nurse, of course, but so that we can keep those students safe, healthy, and happy and in the classroom where they need to be. And I'm open to any questions if you have.
Go ahead, Mr. Reagan.
Around the country, school boards and public health and all everywhere are getting involved in controversies. Is anyone arguing with you about the curriculums you bring forth and the programs you have? Is there any issue in Grand Forks County that way?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Reagan. To my knowledge, no, I'm not aware of any conflict. It's been fairly smooth for any of the, and what we would think traditionally may be controversial with puberty. There is generally a permission slip sent to the students and their families, so they have consent if they want to participate or not. But I haven't heard of any further conflict in that. Thank you for the question.
Anybody else?
Just a thank you. Thank you for the services that you provide because they are so important. Not only to educate the kids, but for those that may have some underlying health issues that you're able to help support them. So thank you very much.
Certainly, we appreciate that opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Todd, you're up.
Thanks, County Commission. Thanks for having me here. I had spoke earlier today with Commissioner Rustet. And to give you an update on, we were to investigate the county ramp as part of our 2 other ramps, and we do have a couple service park areas too. So we're really kind of leaning in and moving forward is number one. We know the All-Man Boutique Hotel will open, I think as soon as September, October. Beacon by Epic, one of the buildings will be completed, and the other one is not so far behind. And there will be a 3rd building that will start relatively soon. And right now they're bidding the events that will have a stage, music performance, those sorts of things. It'll also have a that we can use year round. So the story longer, there's going to be a lot more cars downtown, and some of it's going to be event driven, some of it's just going to be during the week. I think we're going to have a lot more people downtown. And again, there's another boutique hotel that's going to get towards down the Brown family. So lots of exciting things that are going on downtown. And so we really we got to step up our game plan and how we operate on parking downtown. We just can't be River City, USA, and how we've been managing parking, and probably have finally made after 20+ years after the flood, and it's in a lot of the gaps that filled in. And so Mr. Brooks is also with me here. And as you probably know, there's really no glory in parking. And right, nobody ever calls you to say you're doing a great job. They normally just call you when there's a problem. So, but as we look, we did move forward with an RFP, and we hired over the last, we hired Interstate Parking, which is, they're doing a lot of parking in Fargo. And we hired them to do a similar thing, to start operating and managing our ramps and parking structure. So they just started, and Mr. Brooks said we're working out a few kinks, but we're moving along in that. The other thing we were going to do is that we know that I think A2S and Jay Clevin was your structural engineer for the capital improvements that were needed on the ramp. As I recall, those are around $6 million. And what we were going to do is do another 3rd party look at it, and we were going to have Scott Fournier, who's a structural engineer, works in to take a look at it. We haven't been able to get a hold of Scott to see where it's at in the process. Our hope and our goal was, and not only with inflation, but that cost would be lower. There'd be some way that we could pay some of the improvements, and it wouldn't be that large amount right off. And it would be something that we could phase in over time. The other thing is that we could maybe, if we did take over that ramp, is that there would be a way where we could integrate it with the capital improvements and kind of a per unit basis and operate it with our 3rd party manager. And that would be a better option than you guys expending, that $6 million of capital. That's precious, I suspect, with you, because it's all tied to mill levies and that sort of thing. So that was our hope. We don't have answers today, but our goal is to try to come back with a solution. The other thing we talked about, there's the city owns a lot across the police department. Is that 3rd, 4th, 5th? That must be 5th. And so we swapped that lot back in the day with Northridge or John Miscavige. So they own that lot. We gave them the Herald lot so that they could build their structure. That's where the underground parking is going to be. And so in order for them to build that Franklin on 4th, that's right across the City Hall, they needed that lot so that they could build their structure without overall, even though we were giving up a lot, it's for the greater good of the community that we'd be able to build this, $30 to $40 million facility and the like. So that's kind of where we're at. And I know we've talked about that lot, and we're not going to develop that until you guys, we want to hold that out in case you guys want to move forward and that's something you want to build on it. And I'm not sure where you folks are at with juvenile detention. If I know you're planning to knock down the old jail where juvenile detention is, or if that's going to go up north where the county jail expansion is. But we're going to hold that off for it. So if there is an opportunity and you wanted that as part of any move forward, we would work with you on that. I think the last time I was evaluated, I think this is back to Paul Hodak was around the state assessor, probably. I don't know, during the pandemic or the pandemic. I think we said it was worth $180,000 that lot. So, but as always, we're always willing to work with you folks. I don't know what your timeline is on sound the bond, or if you have to do, I understand there's stuff, the dome you want to do as part of that, Debbie. And with this ramp, and I don't know if you need to do it all in one, but I'm here to say we're working on it. It's been a little bit longer than I anticipated, but you gotta have smart people work on this. Brooks said I can't do the structural engineering for that, so you won't want to take our word for it. So that's what we're waiting on right now, and I hope to come back here and it's a good news story, right? And that we're moving forward well and those sorts of things. So
So, question, Todd. Let's just say the county decides that we want to move and go with you guys. Is there gonna be a committee that, I mean, so that we can decide, there's certain cars and vehicles that need to be in that ramp, like social services, human services, so that we are guaranteed those spots, you know? And I'm sure as far as everybody else goes, the charge that you charge in your other two will be about the same charge for everybody else at this one.
it would be one system. And you know, one of the unique part of the ramp you have versus we'll call it the central or the corporate is that we have, it's primarily for people who work in the building, right? Whereas if you look at those other two ramps, it's miscellaneous users that are using that as a parking. Where I think you guys have a little bit of a different story. You got fleet vehicles, you have people that are parking. How do we manage it after hours?
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than those other two where, I think yours is more specific, was built for this building and for people to park.
We would just like to be part of the conversation when that, and if it comes about, so that we know what spots to have.
Yeah.
The other issue is maintenance equipment. There's a garage in that ramp. You know, that they keep their maintenance equipment stuff, and we're doing our own snow removal now, so we don't contract that out anymore. So there's certain equipment that needs to be kept in that garage, so.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
if I can really quick, so Commissioner Ingen and I did meet with Mr. Phelan and the mayor about a month ago, and it was to discuss some other mutually beneficial programs. We did discuss the ramp as well. We did convey to Mr. Phelan and the mayor that, as of 2022, 117 spots are rented. There's less now, is what I'm being told. We've lost parking contracts because of the disrepair of the ramp. So, but at right now, 117 spots rented out of 330 spots. We did convey to Mr. Phelan and the mayor that, we do have employees, we do have downtown residents, we do have we need availability for jury parking, some storage, which Mr. Phelan and the mayor were both more than happy to discuss. Yes, if we get that far, whatever purchase agreement, whatever agreement has come up, we'll work with staff to make sure those are incorporated if the commission does move forward. Just want to let you know those discussions have
okay,
been happening.
thank you.
Commission Chair Ross, we also said, based on our conversation we had last night, was a challenging conversation. Whatever, we said, just like we did with the Grand Forks Herald, is that whatever I say to you requires city council approval and county commission approval. So don't do anything, I'm not asking you to do anything rash, because you never know on any given Monday evening, there's no telling what a city council, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm here to say, I'm here to do my job and do the best I can. Mayor's all for this too. However, we're just two lonely guys, and we need at least 4 votes on city council to get this forward, okay?
Okay,
And on the vice versa, we gotta come here to make sure it's mutually
right.
agreeable to you, and we're gonna work hard to try to make that happen.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from anybody? All right, thank you.
All right,
Mr. Phelan.
Hey,
Thank
always
you.
nice coming over here. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Nick West.
Members of the board, a few updates for the board. I don't have any requests, but thought it prudent at request to get on the agenda and just get some updates. So thank you, Commissioner Rustic, for having me. couple of easy ones. I just haven't heard anything back from the DOT yet, so nothing to report there. Load restrictions on the roads are probably gonna go on coming into this week or next week. Just friendly reminder that we follow the DOT schedule. When theirs go on, ours go on. When they go off, we go off. It takes the decision-making out of our hands, and they use a lot of science to determine when they go on and off. So it does work well. And like to keep going with that. We had a question or two I've had already, and I think Commissioner Hagan has, about the hydraulic study we started 10 months ago on County Road 5, south of Manville. It's not done. They're still working on it. It's complicated. And before anything gets released to the public, we want to make sure it's right. I haven't seen any results yet, but there's been a lot of back and forth over the last few months and questions and trying to model how that water moves and goes through, and it is challenging, but it's being worked on. I was at Trail County Commission meeting this morning about Eagle Avenue and paving that, and there was not a yes or a no, but there was a motion on the floor and it passed 3-2 vote to borrow money from the Bank of North Dakota for half of their half. If they're gonna have cash on hand for half, the other half they would borrow. But at this point, they figured they need to put it to a public vote. And the public vote would take place June of 2024, the deadline, because the deadline is submitted apparently in February. And so we missed it for this year. So I don't know if that's gonna ring true or if they'll hold to that or not. I've had couple conversations with one of their commissioners in the meantime this afternoon. And if that'll stay or not, but they're still trying to press forward. So we're still in limbo is the bottom line. I don't know. And they asked me, well, how long is Grand Forks' offer on the table? I was like, well, boy, that's the $1 million question. You know, how long would you sit with money in the bank? It's been not long. If we don't put it there, it's hard to look people in the eye when there's need and not fix something else or do something else, fix a bridge or pave a road or something. I mean, put gravel on a road. There's all kinds of things we should be doing with it as well. So I don't know. We'll give them maybe one more meeting and see what it is, and I'll report back and be patient for a little bit longer. But I don't know. Just kind of in limbo here yet.
Mr. West, is that, that on the full 6 miles?
It was. Yeah, there wasn't much talk about doing a smaller project.
Okay.
They're swinging for the fence and trying to go all 6, so, which is great.
It is great, yeah.
So I told that one commissioner afterward, I said, well, if you got half of a half, well, that's your full portion of 3 miles. Let's do 3 miles. That would make a big difference. Now, we can do that. Well, we're trying to do 6. They're worried if we do 3, we'll never get back to finish the other 3. Which is fair.
Yeah.
But it just prolongs the project. Every year you wait, it's probably more expensive.
Yeah.
You know, and then we got money sitting. That's a problem for me. I think for me it is. That's my opinion. Flooding update? I don't mean to take County's thunder, but
No,
okay.
be my guest.
Okay. It's a lot of minor stuff. I haven't seen any major damage yet, which is good. We've had a number of county roads and township roads as well too, but a lot of half a dozen county roads were underwater for a short period of time, some of them just a couple hours. I know 24 and 20 down in that Northwood Nevada area. Wasn't even reported. I just happened to drive up on it yesterday. I'm like, oh, water went over here, and, you know, an inch of gravel was gone. And we put gravel back and bladed it back up and it's fixed. You know, not a big deal, but there was water over County 33, just a couple miles east of Gilby, and it was just like a lake. It wasn't flowing, just flowing much. It was on the road. We put signs up. We didn't close it, and it's down. It was a day, less than a day. We did close County Road 11 right west of County 5. It's typical spot on the Turtle River, or branch of the Turtle. Actually the Hazel Brook, but, or excuse me, saltwater. Right where the saltwater and turtle meet. So that's closed. County 5 south of Manville, it's like a foot. But Mackinac has started to drop already, so maybe it won't go under. That would be really, really, really nice. So we'll see, but it's coming. Had a few phone calls just for the board's awareness, anytime flood comes, people are upset, they're frustrated. And what's the county doing about all this flooding and all the big culverts putting in are flooding us out and we need dam site 10 built. And I said, yeah, that'd be really nice. There's a new dam proposed by McKenna. Money available, it's just a matter of coordinating with landowners. Some want it, some don't, and it's controversial, of course, so hasn't gone anywhere, but I pinged all the water board members today and I said, we need dam site 10, it could be the biggest dam in the county. So I'm just throwing about 2 cents in there that involved maybe near that, it would be good from the highway standpoint. Just a lot of flood culverts really is the bottom line, and some ditches that don't open up, so usually it's quick. Get an excavator out there, dig them out, water flows, it drops, we're going. Every flood's a little different, and this one is no exception. Some areas where we expect a lot of water to be, there's not much, and vice versa. It's odd, it's really weird. And in some areas that we expect, there is. So, good news, the crest in Oslo is projected like 35. So state 54 goes into Oslo, and our county road 18, it's 37 is kind of, 37 is kind of the magic number. So good news, it's projected they hopefully don't go under. Well, we got a rain event coming, and hopefully they're wrong and it's nothing. Okay. Hopefully it's minor, yeah. But if that drops 2-3 inches, get ready. That's going to be a problem in some areas. Sandbags, we haven't had much interest in that. We do have a pile in our yard there, and it's open 24/7. And I saw one guy today was out there and he was shoveling it a little bit, filling some eggs, or he was just throwing grabbed eggs and threw sand in the back of his pickup and drove off. Probably filling at home, but that's about it. We haven't gone through much that way, so I guess that's good news. I don't know if I'm missing anything. Sorry, I'm just looking at you if I'm missing something.
Nope, I don't think you are. When we first went into this whole flood season, we were expecting a flood record. They thought it was gonna be in the top 10 based on the amount of snow we had. What they couldn't model or put into the projections was how dry our soils were.
Right.
And those dry soils, now that they're thawed and those monitor things they have can actually read, they're getting an appreciation for how much of that snowpack actually went back into the ground. So I think it saved us, for sure. But like Nick said, these next few storms are really gonna kind of tell the story. We haven't had any requests for resources other than, how do I get a hold of the guy with the sandbags? I think we've only had 2 calls, I think is what Donna said today. So crossing our fingers.
The weather's been great, warm during the day, cool at night. Couldn't ask for better weather that way.
It's a perfect melt that way, and now we just wait. But most of the snowpack is gone, really, I mean, since last Thursday, there was a lot of snow up there last Thursday, and then when I drove around yesterday, there was more water than there was snow. So it's going down pretty quickly, and the rivers are starting to open, they're starting to move even here. Even though we have a significant amount of ice chunks on the red, it's starting to move. So I think, and then it takes 5 to 7 days to get the Fargo water up here. Yesterday, they were standing down. Today, based on the predictions, now they're gonna be, their tactical operations center is gonna be open this weekend, and they're ramping back up. So it's just been that kind of a season. We just don't know.
The folks on the west side of Gilby really got hammered on Sunday. Yeah. Now there's water all their yards, touching their garages, and some houses.
For sale signs that were half underwater. That's bad for business.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had opened up all the ditches before. We knew it was historical problem site, did what we could prep for, but
when it becomes a fast mouth, they're always got one. There.
I honestly think they just need a little ring dike around those houses on the west side of county too. You know, and solve the problem, in a couple feet, 2-3 feet would be done.
I would totally agree. Families do it in Oslo.
Yeah.
They cross from Farmstead to get across where it's flooding with boats.
Yeah.
On an ongoing basis. I mean, they just expect it, they plan for it, and that would help them out too.
Is that most
Anything
all,
to add, Andy?
other than staging resources on Friday?
Yeah, it's going well.
The Burke Edition and Lake Drive. So the sheriff's office and Thompson Fire are gonna haul stuff out there. That road will go under, Shady Ridge will go under. Even in a minor flood, they go under, but.
Yeah.
So they'll get those resources out there and
We did read before talk about a bridge up there, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Long time. I
A
think.
long time. It's an option, but there's a cost option. How is it gonna happen? But I know that has been discussed in the past. Of course, the owners, the property owners have switched over, you know, many times about, and those usually that experience of the first spring of the year, like, what did I, you know, so I know that it's kind of a surprising situation for people to deal with that are over there. And I know they've approached us before about putting up, extending the dike, and that is an option. It isn't going to be an option with the cost of what it would cost to do that. Now, they chose not to do that back in '97, and when we were looking at, you know, mitigation for the county, but they said, no, you're not diking up our area. And so we don't have the affordability nor the resources to do it.
We did apply for a brick craft. That would have helped that area a lot. BRIC, brick is a program through FEMA. Did not get it. And
Nobody got it, did they?
well, if you're a red state, you didn't get it. And we're clearly, that's red is red to be. If you know what I mean.
Political.
Yeah. So,
so most of the news.
yeah, so far.
There are several counties that are much worse.
And we're very fortunate that moisture is going down. Thank goodness to an early snow in November that created a big insulation process for the frost.
And a perfect month. We couldn't ask for anything better than how this is.
Let's just hope that they don't know what's gonna happen in 3 days.
Hopefully they're wrong.
Yeah, well, you know, it's gone somewhere before.
One other item update, the last grant we got for some bridge place, 4 or 5 bridges on there. The RFPs were issued for engineering services and we need to, they're due tomorrow. I've already gotten one. We will need to have a selection committee to review those RFPs and make a recommendation. So I would ask for volunteers or advice from the board on who should be in that selection committee. I would say 3 members total would be a good minimum. Historically, I've been on it, and 1 or 2 commissioners, and then 1 or 2 other staff members could be on it. Last time we did it, I think it was Commissioner Peach.
Name,
Okay.
Commissioner.
We did one where it was 1 commissioner, myself, and Scott Clayton in our office, our office project manager position. So it would be nice to have 1 commissioner on it.
Commissioner Hager, would you be interested in that since it's your portfolio?
I assumed I was supposed to be, so.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to volunteer, but
Yeah.
not my place.
I'm not voluntold in you, but
You got it all and told me.
yeah.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're all done. We're all great.
Director of Administration.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Still working with the UAS test site on disaster emergency services contract that would provide some flood mapping UAS services over the troubled spots within the county, Turtle River Basin, Coal Creek, excuse me. So still nothing yet, and maybe by the time we have one, we'll be fine anyways, but more to come on that. Met with, along with Commissioner Rost and Commissioner Rusted, met with the Fair Board last week. As you know, Lot 2 is what we found out through the title search process. They own Lot 2. So we met with the Fair Board to first brief them on the project, understand some concerns, do what we can as a county to mitigate those concerns. And we offered up possible solutions. I met with construction engineers Friday to review some of those solutions that were put on the table. And I've asked construction engineers and Icon to proceed with some designs on those alternative solutions to be presented back to the commission. I'll be reaching back out to the Fair Board. They were open to another meeting to come back together with some more concerns and some solutions on their end and our end and see if we've got a way forward. So good meeting, positive meeting. But any changes will need to be brought to the commission and approved by the commission. Any questions on that? If not, I'll keep rolling through my report. You've heard me and you've heard Ms. Leon brief the commission on the Defense Community Infrastructure Pilot Program grant for quite some time now. The federal funding opportunity, dropped. And so it is county staff's intention to apply for the DSIP. It's federal money. It's Department of Defense money administered to the Office of Economic Adjustment, which we've worked with many times with their grants, so we're familiar with them. The intent would be to build a fire station on Grand Sky, and happy to discuss the response scenarios on Grand Sky further if you'd like, but a lot of it's in the memo I provided, so I'll stand for questions, but I'll keep moving. The nice thing about the DSIP grant is because the county's population is under 100,000, there's no match. So that's rare, but no match is required of the county. So 100% fully funded federally. We as a county own 2 fire trucks. We own some firefighting equipment, which of course Grand Sky uses because it's meant for Grand Sky. We can use the values of those in our application. It would be staff's intent, if this project is successful and comes to fruition, that we'd enter into a P4 agreement with Grand Sky and the base for an MOU to provide them additional fire response, because they do provide us additional fire response to Grand Sky. And the other important detail is if the project comes to fruition, the county would own the fire station, just like we own the gatehouse, just like we own the air utility building. Nothing any different there. As I detailed in the memo, the issue we run into, and the city's been a good partner in this, is everybody can't be the primary responder to Grand Sky. And so we've had this agreement with the city since 2015. We've hit critical mass at Grand Sky, and we need to address the fire response situation. So happy to answer any questions on that, but more informational that we're proceeding with it. Happy to answer any questions of the commission, but most importantly, no match required.
Yes, Commissioner Regan.
How long is the process going to take with the DSIP, do you think?
Communities have to have their, and Ms. Leon can correct me if I'm wrong, she's online. Communities have until June 23rd to submit, which will be
How long
here.
does it take to evaluate?
Old CC or OEA's intention is to award before the next fiscal year, which is October 1. The projects have to demonstrate that they're shovel ready within 12 months. project can be completed within 5 years of award.
Anybody else? Any other questions on that topic?
Okay,
Okay.
I'll keep moving along, Mr. Chair. Employee grievance policy, the state's attorney, Ms. Thiel and I, we recently met to review the grievance policy. It's part of the overall policy review by staff or policy. A lot of it needs to be brought up to 2023 business standards. Grievance policy is in that category. It needs to be brought up to 2023 business standards. In our discussion and reviewing that policy, there are a few major issues that we want to review and change. But Ms. Wamstad, Ms. Thiel and I agreed we should bring this to the commission first and get some commission direction on what you'd like us to do as staff. So we can continue to proceed with updating the grievance policy, modernize it, bring it back to commission for review and approval. Or the commission could choose to actually discontinue the grievance policy. Currently, our grievance policy puts in a repeal committee. There is no repeal committee. It's never been identified. There never has been one. So there are just some things that need to be addressed that staff can do, but we'd like your direction first if we should continue to update it or if we should discontinue a grievance policy.
Question? Ms. Thiel?
Yeah.
As Mr. Ford said, we've looked through it. There are some things that are in that policy that don't exist. So when we were going through it, our thought process was, okay, does the commission want to continue with the grievance policy? Yes or no? If yes, then we can go ahead and update. If you say, no, we're not interested in doing a grievance policy anymore, then we wouldn't. We just didn't want to invest a whole lot of time on something to have a discussion where people are like, well, are we even going to do this? It would not make any difference as far as the termination process. It would still be linked with our progressive discipline, and we want to start at the lowest level. So it would be a revamp where we would more clearly define what are the steps, more clearly define who does the employee go to, make sure all of our timelines are very consistent, because currently we have some things that are 5 days, and some things are 15 days. It's very disjointed. And our intent was, what would you like us to do?
Move for elimination of the grievance policy.
That's a motion.
Are you making that a motion? Second, anybody?
Love discussion.
Okay, more discussion.
Do we have a little more discussion on it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mr.
second.
Chairman, I believe you have to have
You have
second
to have a
the
second.
motion.
a second, I need a second, and then we can discuss. Okay, second by Commissioner Hagan. Okay, discussion, Commissioner Hagan, go ahead.
Doesn't every large company, and that's what we are, have a procedure that's outlined
No.
like this?
Actually, not this kind of a grievance policy. Usually it's handled under your progressive discipline.
What's the difference
And-
between what we have then?
So progressive discipline, where you work on performance improvement plans, you know,
I know that works.
all of those
What is the
pieces.
grievance plan
So
does
the-
not have?
So the grievance policy as it stands, if you move somebody to termination, they can grieve and say, I want to come before currently it's, I want to come before the commission and request that they evaluate this and determine whether or not the termination stands. When I first got here, there had been a grievance that had been started. Yes, Nick's aware. because it was his department. And the process wasn't followed in the timelines and things, so it was kind of a little bit confusing. Also, we would want, if we continue with a grievance policy, we need to identify what types of things are grievable. Because some people believe that they can grieve something when you can really only grieve if you have an adverse action that's taken against you. But they say, oh, I don't agree with this, so now I want to come to the commission. So.
Ms. Deal, correct me if I'm wrong, so if a supervisor works with HR and they move to terminate an employee, as of our current policy, the employee could file a grievance and come to the commission. And the commission could either overturn that termination and send that employee back to work, or the commission could say, no, we rule in favor of the termination. And this is where the odd appeal committee comes in, which we have no idea who it is, and how can appeal committee overrule the policymakers in the first place? You know, you could do, again, grievance policy, same situation. To Ms. Steele's point, and Ms. Wamsa and I agree, let's do it at the lowest possible level and come up with a solution. Then if one can't be presented, there could be a panel that reviews it and could uphold. And then I guess at the end of the day, the final determination could be aired out in the commission meeting. So that is something we threw on the table, but just wanted you to, as an example, see how the current policy affects it.
It's confusing and redundant, and I'd rather dump it.
Mr. Chair,
But you can handle things.
This one said.
thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. One thing I'd just like to add that I think is relevant to the board's consideration is that when we talk about employment at will, courts typically look at the totality of the circumstances to determine if employment is at will. And one of the factors that they do look at is if there is a grievance policy, an ability for a employee to appeal a termination or adverse employment action, that's something that does not look like employment at will. That in and of itself does not mean that it isn't employment at will, but it's a factor for the courts to consider.
It seems to me like you can handle things through the progressive discipline policy, just more, with less
Sounds like
complex.
wasting time to do something that's already.
Cleaner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cleaner, yeah.
And we have to vote, we have to. Okay, you're ready.
All right. So I have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor? Well, should we do a roll call?
Mr. Chairman, the motion is to eliminate.
Eliminate, right.
The
Eliminate.
policy.
Okay,
So
eliminate the policy.
if you voted in favor of that, you
All
would
right.
be eliminating the policy.
All right. So all those in favor of eliminating the grievance policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Commissioner Peach voted yes. All right.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Two more items for the commission's awareness. The relating to the courthouse dome repair and refurbishment, the RFQ for architectural services was due Friday. We received one bid for architectural professional services. Something that was pointed out to me by the industry, I have a few architects reach out to me during this process. We required a bid bond to be part of the bid. And it is not business standard in that industry to require a bid bond. Those types of risks are apparently are covered through general liability, commercial liability, errors and omissions. And was told that most likely would deter qualified entities from bidding on the project. We did receive one It did not include a bid bond, so it would be rejected anyways. It didn't follow the instructions. It would be, and it's up to you as a board, but it would be up to the commission to reject and rebid. But staff would recommend though that we drop the bid bond, and I'll work with Ms. Wamstead and Mr. Clevin from AE2S, who's offered to help a little bit. We'll shore that RFQ up to be more compliant, not compliant, but more standard with business practice and reissue it. That'd be my recommendation.
Okay. Comment. Mr. Page.
Yeah, question. So we don't have to do anything with the RFP that came in because they didn't meet the qualifications.
That's correct, ma'am.
But we need to move forward on a motion to rewrite the bid for architectural services on design, refurbishment, and repair of the Grand Forks County Courthouse Stone project and rebid them, and I would make that motion.
Okay. Do I have a second to that motion? Commissioner Rusted. Okay. all those-
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, there probably should be a motion to reject the bid that was received as well.
Okay.
Even if it wasn't qualified.
I'll make the motion to rescind the
Should
exception.
we deal with that one we just
Qualified.
first or
I would,
just reject?
I would reject the bid and then grant staff permission to.
Okay,
Yeah, let's
I got a motion by Commissioner Rusted to reject the bid. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Hagan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, same sign, motion's carried. Now, the other motion was to rebid, right?
To remove the request for a bid bond in that RFP and then rebid.
Okay, you made the motion, Commissioner Rusted seconded it. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion is carried.
It will still require everything, good standing with the state of North Dakota, obviously insurance, O&E, will still, that'll all be required. The last thing I have, Mr. Chair, this is recent development that needs the commission's attention. As you know, we've been proceeding with the courthouse security improvements across the way for the sheriff, the courthouse deputy's workstation. We got that grant from the state. JLG received 2 bids. The high bid was $639,000.95. The low bid was $576,600. Just to refresh the commission's memory, the project estimate was $231,000. In visiting with JLG, we could drop the system enunciation, or excuse me, the enunciation system from the project. And you're going to hear me right. If we were to drop the enunciation system, it would bring the estimated cost down to $195,000. Why? Is because they were not really successful in obtaining electrical bids. So essentially, there was a lack of interest from industry for electrical bids. We're seeing this. We're seeing this in the community-led projects. There are some contract managers, they don't need the work, so they put in a really high bid, and if they get it, great for them. If not, it's okay. So where we left that meeting was in this consulting the sheriff and Scott Johnson, how I directed JLG is they're going to meet with a low bidder, which is Construction Engineers. Construction Engineers is the bidder that offered to remove the enunciation system and gave us that estimate of $195,000. So I asked JLG to set up that meeting with Construction Engineers, go through that new listing, the new budget, and get it confirmed. And it was my recommendation that we, and the enunciation system, pulling that out does not significantly negatively impact the overall project. It's about keeping the entryway more secure. So I had suggested that we come back to the commission in the 2024 capital improvements budget and make that request. However, it's again, talking to JLG, they believe that if we can reach out to some electrical companies, have them walk the facility and show them what we need, they're confident the price of that enunciation system would come down quite a bit. So we can either come back to the commission and capital improvements for the enunciation system, or we could also try and apply for another courthouse security grant for the enunciation system, which that pot is shrinking every year. And that committee is making it a point to award more funding to small counties. So it's an option, or we can come back. And my recommendation was actually come back to the capital improvements budget for 2024 and put it in, but let's see if we can get that price down. To give you an idea, the project cost originally $231,000. The grant amount from the state was $173,786. The county contribution was $57,928. If you want to proceed with the low bid at $500,000, the county's cost would be $402,000, which I don't think the commission would do. At $195,000, that puts the county share at $48,750. And so there's two things that we need before I would bring back to the commission for official approval. Ms. Leon's going to reach out to the courthouse security grant committee with the new scope, and because they did approve the grant on a certain scope. So she's going to approach them with the updated scope and should be okay with getting their endorsement, I would think. And then we also need JLG's meeting with CE to confirm the new quotes. And then I'll come back, because again, any change needs to be approved by the county commission. So that's where that's at. There is some urgency because this funding has to be spent within the calendar year it's designated. So that's where that's at. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay. State's attorney.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I have nothing for the board. Thank you.
Okay. Committee reports.
So myself and Chairman Ross attended the Fair Board meeting. Interesting one. Opinions flying around. I'm not entirely sure where things are going. I know that they're aware of our willingness to provide an additional entrance that would go near the county shop, Nick West's shop.
Yeah, I haven't met with Mr. West yet, but yeah, I can kind of go over those things with him.
I just let the cat out of the bag.
Knows now.
Perplexed.
So, yeah, there's definitely a mix of opinions on, the stoppage of that particular entrance from, I believe, Gateway Drive it is. Am I correct in that assertion?
No, they were using the north off of Washington, North Washington.
Oh, okay.
That's the one that would be eliminated.
I meant to say Washington, yeah.
Yeah. And that's only for 2 years. During the construction.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And other than that, I mean, we didn't talk really about what the fair is going to entail. However, I've gotten a few emails about people not, or one particular person not wanting us to have tigers. Don't really have a strong opinion on that. So I guess if they have them, great. If they don't, fantastic. NPO meets tomorrow.
Mr. Hagan.
I have nothing new. My meetings are scheduled for tomorrow.
Okay.
Ready for next steps.
Commissioner Peach.
The Human Service Zone board met prior to this meeting. About 9 to 10 staff that we're looking at employing due to some people leaving and going, taking other positions, either internally with the county or externally. It's April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. The Child Protective Services is dealing with about 175 families right now. Last month it was 182, and previously last year it was over 200. So the fact that they are under 200 in dealing with CPS staff are dealing with families is a good thing. That's positive. But they always want to see that lower, obviously. There are some pieces of legislation that are moving through. Senate Bill 2012 has had some subcommittee movement. A couple of things was that they did have on an amendment to that bill that they wanted to move all social service zone staff to state staff. The social services zone staff were not in support of that. They would like to keep some separation from the state so it doesn't become more of a system that's very pretty much the same everywhere, without the social services zone staff that are basically county staff. Also, there was some discussion about providing the same type of wages to zone staff that are county staff. Remember, we cannot do anything as the commission to raise any cost of living adjustments or anything. That's controlled by the state. That's a concern. The social services zone system started in 2019. Since then, there has been no increase to zone staff, even though we have done increases with the county. That's unfortunate. They have done a study for years. They haven't done anything to increase the wages of zone staff. That was something that was they weren't willing to support. That amendment, excuse me, that amendment went down. The Social Services Board is probably, we made a motion today. There is going to be a letter sent to our legislators at the county level, telling them that we do support that they get the same wage, and they are looked at as the same as state employees do. That hasn't been done. But a concern of them becoming state employees. We've only been doing the zone process for 3 to 4 years. There's still a lot of questions. They're trying new things. They're new. We have a call center now that's statewide. Recently, they opened up the call center, I believe, in February. In the month of March, there were 33,902 calls made to the call center. Of those calls, 19,156 of those were abandoned. In other words, they hung up, they didn't answer. People didn't want to go through the process. This is new. This is something that we have to see that works. There are 28 people statewide with 3 administrators overseeing the state call system. We don't know if this is going to work. This is another option that the state is trying. We as the board did talk about too. The whole purpose of going to the zone process was to have it be less expensive than counties spending money on social services. We don't know if that has come to fruition. Nobody wants to do a study on that. People in the biggest expense in social services for many years has been housing. Housing for senior citizens, housing for individuals with developmental disabilities, senior citizen care, $10,000 to $12,000 plus. the same thing with group homes, with people that have developmental disabilities. You can't erase that. These are individuals who are not employable. They've got disabilities beyond, and they try to get them out to workplaces, things like that. Unfortunately, in a couple of the last sessions, a lot of those funding, that funding was taken away by the state of North Dakota. Just because people are low income, and the majority of them are our senior citizens and are developmentally disabled, we can't get rid of them. I'm sorry. These are important individuals. Is it gonna cost money to support them? Yes, it is. And is that something we're gonna get rid of? No, we're not going to. The federal government has made it more difficult for nursing homes to survive. They don't want Medicare to cover that, even though individuals are Medicaid, even though individuals work their entire life before they retired. They make it more and more difficult. Northwood, I deal with the Northwood Hospital. They used to have over 100 people in their nursing home. They're now down to less than 40 beds. And that's because you have to have beds available, but they make it more and more stringent. Preference, our federal government would choose that people take care of their own elder citizens and not have to have them in a funded facility. Right now, where I work, 2 of them are gonna close. One for dementia has closed in Crookston, and there's another one that's gonna close down the road. And it's unfortunate because where do we expect those people to go? Yes, you're right. And so, but we are closely watching. I didn't realize that the zones across the state, there are 19 of them. Many of the zones have problems, issues, dealing with more than one county. We are one county for the Grand Forks zone, and we don't run into the problems, I guess, that others do. The state, I think, feels that it would be more successful if they just ran everything the way it is, but we don't feel the same way. These are humans, human beings in our areas, and we need to take care of them. And so we are not in support of everybody going to be a state employee, although we are in support of individuals remaining as employees under Grand Forks County or a supporting agency, county system, as they call it. But at this point, it's too new. We don't know what's working, what's not working. We really don't know. So just so you're aware, and I'll report on this as we move forward, there is a letter coming from our social services zone board suggesting that we wait on making them state employees, but we really get serious about their pay. Because 2019 was a while ago, and we've seen a lot of increases in just basic cost of living that isn't being addressed. So that's unfortunate. Other than that, I think things are going okay. We've had some great new employees that have started, but we gotta take care of our state's people, whether we choose to or not. They're our employees, or they're our citizens, and that's our job. So other than that, that's all I have to report on.
Thank you, Commissioner Regan.
Well, one more thing about the Northwood, they had a memory care there too. And I think actually with the new remodeling that's gonna go on, it's not gonna be 40 beds, it's gonna be down to 16. And
It's difficult.
What people do who don't have family around to take care of them, and they're 90 years old, and they are living on a farmstead and who knows what.
Yeah,
There's a
it's
lot
hard.
of problems with that. So
It's
anyway,
hard.
since our meeting last week, I have nothing new to report, by the way, I'd like it.
Okay, thank you. Madam Auditor, I would like, when do we need to decide on those bonds for?
Mr. Chairman, member of the commission, at the last commission meeting a week ago, you approved selling up to $10 million in bonds. So with that, then there comes advertisement, and then also comes a bond rating call. And there is a cost with that. So if you at some point decide, I don't want to bond, we are liable for those costs. And $10 million in bonds, the rating call up will be $25,500. If it's less than 10,000 or 10 million, it's 19,500. And if it's less than 5,000, it's 14,000, or 5 million, it's 14,500. So those are the things you want to consider, because at this point, with a sales date of May 16th and the requirements to get that to happen, you need to make up your mind how much you want to do. You do not have to rescind the motion. The motion was up to 10 million. So if you want to still bond for something less, you might want to make a motion saying we want to do X amount of dollars for just this project, because right now we have two projects. We have the dome and we have the parking ramp.
Okay, so my opinion is, I think we should or bond for the dome. And that would be 5 million. And not the parking ramp, to see what the city of Grand Forks is gonna do.
That's nothing.
And so I would be looking for a motion.
Before you ask for that, Mr. Chair, would there be any wisdom in dropping that to like 4.95?
Yeah, I thought about going right under 5 million, so then we could save the additional $5,000.
Pension pennies here.
I know, but it's $5,000.
Yeah.
5 million.
Isn't it likely we would be using some of that 5 or some of?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, so, and these, please keep in mind, these numbers were presented in October. To refurbish, repair the dome, you're at 3.87 million. To entirely replace, you're at 5.06 million.
That was October.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, but on the other side of that, we still have other funds that are available that we could cover. Each.
The one thing I want to reiterate, though, is the fact that we have been talking about adjustments to our wages for quite some time, years. We can't continue to push that forward because this building needs something or that building needs something. It's not fair to our employees. It's not fair of us as decision makers. I realize that our county has to pay taxes. And I realize that that has to be taken into consideration too, but I don't want to play that game one more time that we can't afford it. I'm sorry, employers can't afford it. Employees at some point can't afford to stay working for us because they can go somewhere else and get paid more. We don't have the magic ball in front of us, but we can't continue to play this game.
Right.
Buildings don't come before people. I realize that a majority of our dollars in the county do go to paying staff. We are a larger employer. We have 200 and, Michelle, how many do we have?
About 320.
We have 320 employees. We are a larger employer. We can't continue to say, I'm sorry, we'd really like to give you a raise with the cost of everything going up, but we just can't afford it. We can't play that game. We don't know what it's gonna cost. The only concern I have of going, from 19,000 fees to 20-some thousand fees, it is a difference. That building was looked at in October. I can't tell you what expenses have done. The other thing is it's an old building. It was built in 1889. Before they open it up or do something, there could be some costs that we don't know about. I mean, architects try to do the best they possibly can, but until they get into the scope of the project, I see that with the airport, on runway design, all sorts of things. I just don't want us to be going, oh, there, well, we'll take it from the employees again because we need that money. I know there is some money sitting, but we don't know for sure what one project is going to be. We're not ready to make a decision on the other one. I just don't want to shortchange us in making a decision. And if it was to save from 19 to 26,000, $7,000, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, where are we gonna find that other million? We're not tearing down the courthouse. We need to redo it. It's a courthouse that has been around for a very long time. Every justice on every judge that is on our Supreme Court went to school and clerked at that building. And all of them showed up when we had a celebration of many of years a few months ago or a few years ago. But the courthouse isn't going anywhere. We have to fix it, or either that or some of the judges are gonna start buying. So for change ourselves, you know, and I'm looking at, you know, are we talking 5 million or 7? We don't know.
Anything over 5 million is gonna be the
$7,000,
right? So.
But I don't wanna look at a $7,000 cost just to screw us over on a major project.
The instruction will be to refurbish as much.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, and reuse the copper,
Yep.
all of that. And I think that's clear, but until they get into what they're working on, they can use the best tools that they have for that resource. We'll figure it out.
Commissioner Peach, if I may, it would be, so from the 3.8, which is 6 months ago,
Right.
it'd be 25% over. In 6 months, that would be a little outlandish. In my mind's eye that it would ever increase by that degree. I mean, we're talking over $1 million in additional cost. So I don't think based on, you know, in light of Mr. Phelan talking earlier in chats that we've had at the city, and I'm, whether you're in favor of that or not, I guess it's up for your approval, but I don't know that we're in a lot of danger of not having that parking ramp thing go through. And for something to come in 6 months later, 25% higher in the building world would be extremely unusual. I don't know that the risk level would be too high. I know it's only $7,000, it is, but it's still $7,000. That would just be my devil's advocate to your.
So Commissioner, you can go ahead.
If I'm in favor of not bonding for the parking ramp until we figure out how this might work. So if we put a cap of 4.9 million on it, maybe that wouldn't quite pay for all of it, but maybe we would even want to bond the whole thing. In any event, if we use some of that to bond for the courthouse, we wouldn't be penalized, would we? Really penalized us if we
Mr. Chairman,
use
members of the
less.
commission, Commissioner Engen, are you asking the question, can we use it for anything other than the dome?
No. The point is, if we say we want to bond for 3.9 million.
Yep.
Or something like that, of course, with your cost estimates going up so much, it'll be closer to 5. But we wouldn't actually, when do we have to decide what amount of bonds would be sold? May
Yeah.
16th? Or before?
Before.
And how in heaven's name are we supposed to know that, I wonder?
Well, we need to,
You know, I would recommend maybe not to exceed $5 million.
yes. Now, we would go from, before, we talked about 2 mills it would take and to do the $10 million project, 5 and 5. Now we're down to 1 mill and 5 million just for the dome.
And then we
So that's what I feel personally we should do.
I agree.
Yeah.
So for Ms. Nelson, so, and I think Dave just asked this question, but I'm not sure if I understood the answer. So, okay, let's operate in a world where the, in the scenario, the estimate that they gave at $3.8 million remains true, right? And we bond out for 4.99 or whatever. So we've got that additional dollars there. Is there a penalty to return those hours early? I mean, there's no issue there, right? You don't
No,
have to sit on them and just pay the.
no, we wouldn't have to do that.
Okay. What is the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion to bond 4.99 million.
We have to rescind the past one.
We don't, you don't.
Do I
So-
have a second?
I'm sorry.
And that's for the dome
Hold on.
project only.
Second by Commissioner Engen. All those in favor of Mr. Rusted's, Commissioner Rusted's motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried.
Who made the second?
Commissioner Engen.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that's all I have. Unfinished new business. Nothing, just the funding. Okay, any correspondence? I guess you all got a letter on the Highway 81 project. Grand Forks Foundation Education, thank you. Commissioner Hagan?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I will say that portion.
Okay.
Right, we are adjourned.
You have to go to Commissioner Higgins.
I should just stand it.